Hi, I'm Rob Reiner, founder of Parents Action for Children, the nonprofit organization that produced the I Am Your Child video series. I started Parents Action to help educate parents, caregivers, and others about the critical role they play in the development of young children and making the interests of families and young children a national priority. Please take a minute after viewing this program to visit our website, www.parentsaction.org, where you'll find other useful parenting resources and educational materials, including more I Am Your Child videos. You'll also learn how you can connect with other parents to help make sure that all of America's children have the support they need to reach their full potential. Thank you.
Hello, I'm Barry Brazelton. I've been a practicing pediatrician for 40 years, and as I travel around the country talking to parents, some of the most common questions I get are about discipline, which I prefer to think about in terms of setting limits for a child. Setting limits is critical. I've always believed that next to love, the biggest gift you give your child is a clear, consistent set of limits. But in the day-to-day job of raising kids, just how to deal with limits isn't always clear. In fact, it's probably the most difficult job any parent ever faces. Discipline, setting limits, is not punishment, it's teaching. And from the moment of birth, the child is looking to learn about limits. The first limits a baby searches for come in the form of routines. A regular feeding schedule. A predictable bedtime. Establishing these routines is actually the earliest form of discipline. They help a child feel safe and secure and give him a feeling that his world makes sense. That there's something he can count on. And someone. You see, science has shown that you are the most important person in your baby's life. At first, your baby depends on you for regulation, for control. Pretty soon, with your help in setting routines, he can begin to calm himself, to want to eat on a regular schedule, to go to sleep and stay asleep herself. You know, in helping your baby learn how to fit into your day-night cycle so she becomes a member of the family, what you're actually doing is setting predictable limits, teaching her how far she can go, how to pull herself back. This is how your child will learn the rest of her life. Some tips on creating routines. First, every child is unique. So pay attention to the sleep and feeding patterns your child naturally follows. Then use those patterns to establish predictable schedules for your baby and routines she can count on, like reading a story or singing a song at bedtime. As he gets older, talk about the routines, like the actual time he's supposed to go to bed. Routines, like all good limits, will give your child a feeling of security. You'll see how well he responds to them. As you can see, setting limits is teaching. For a young child, every experience is a learning experience. And just as they look to you to learn about routines, they expect you to teach them about how to behave. It begins with imitation. Your baby watches you closely, taking in each expression and gesture, and begins to copy at an early age. That drive to imitate continues well into later childhood. So it's important you always show the behavior you want them to learn. The old phrase, "do what I say, not what I do," just doesn't work with kids. Children are always trying to figure out the way their world works. From their very first days, they're on the lookout for cause and effect. You can see the earliest form of this with crying. A baby cries because she has needs. She's hungry, tired, wet, or in pain. And she's learned that if she communicates this, the only way she can, by crying, she'll get those needs met.
What is it?
Some parents worry that their child is manipulating them with this early crying and that they'll spoil their baby if they give in. Not true.
What's wrong?
In the first 6 months or so, you just can't spoil a baby. An infant this young isn't crying to win a power struggle. His young brain can't even think such a thing. So give your baby what he needs, whether it's soothing, feeding, changing, or helping him get himself back to sleep. But what about when your baby gets a little older and starts to do things that look like misbehavior?
Don't drop that, okay?
Like Hannah's high chair hijinks. Well, let's just take a look at what's really going on here. Hannah keeps dropping the toy, and Mom keeps picking it up. But is Hannah being naughty? I don't think so.
Oh.
She's really learning about cause and effect.
No dropping.
That Mom will keep at it as long as she keeps at it.
No.
Manipulating?
What are
No, she's just experimenting.
you? Hannah, no.
So don't get angry with your child. If you have the patience, like Hannah's mom, try to make a game of
Who's
it.
a silly baby?
If you don't have the time, just remove the object she's throwing and try to find a way to get her interested in something else.
Good girl.
Actually, this is about the age, 9 months to a year or so, when a child's behavior first starts to call for what we usually think of as discipline. It's the age when babies are beginning to walk and to explore a whole new level of excitement and potential danger. Everything goes in the mouth. It's another way babies learn. This is also the time when a child first begins to be able to really understand the concept of no and to start testing it.
No going up the steps.
It looks like Matthew's just teasing. But by testing,
No stairs.
then checking out Mom's reaction, it's really how he's learning limits.
Allie, come down.
Allie's a little older and more advanced. She's almost at the point of handling the steps on her own.
Get down. Good girl.
Her
Nice
mom
job.
has done what every parent should, taught her how to get herself out of trouble once she gets in.
Down.
She's turning the limit and the lesson back to the child. And here's Tommy. He's already taken limit testing to an art form. Just
Can't go
watch.
near there, it's just too hot.
Dad gives him the limits and explains why.
Okay.
Later, Tommy comes up with an excuse to go near the stove and even manages to get some praise.
Thank you.
But then, sneak attack.
Oh, hot.
No touching.
Now, why did he do it? I think it was his powerful curiosity.
Thomas, look at Mommy. Are you supposed to touch the oven?
Mom handles it well. First, she stays calm.
Supposed to touch the oven?
Her tone is firm.
No
Tommy
touching the
knows
oven.
she means business,
Okay?
but she doesn't yell or
Look
scold.
at Mommy.
Then, she makes sure Tommy's paying attention while she delivers her message.
What does Mommy say?
She explains it to him
No
in
touch
words,
oven?
then makes sure he repeats it back.
See this line right here? See that line? You need to stay inside the line.
Safety is the one issue where you have to be firm. But you should also understand that children learn by exploring and testing.
What are you doing?
It doesn't have to call for punishment.
Can I have that, Carrie?
At first, remove the child from the danger,
Small for you, honey. Can I have
or the
this?
danger from the child.
I know, I'm sorry.
Later, words work. Just watch. Avery is setting out for a bike ride.
And remember, you don't go near the street.
He's at an age when he's not crazy about being told what to
How far are we
do.
supposed to go?
Far, far away.
In situations like this, don't react to the negativism. Stay calm but firm. Your child will get the message that what you say
Okay.
goes.
Go ahead, ride. Don't go near the street.
Avery's mom has decided what's non-negotiable, and she's sticking with it.
Far enough, Avery. That's where the sidewalk is. That's where you turn.
She's also teaching him his boundaries. and Avery's on his way to being able to do it himself. A perfect example of limits as learning. With safety, you know exactly what you want to put over in the way of limit setting. Decide what's acceptable and what's not, and stick to it. You'll be surprised how your child will respond. But remember, for the first 6 to 9 months, a child really isn't able to understand right from wrong and isn't trying to manipulate you. Expect your child to start testing limits at around 9 months. It's a natural part of development and means she's growing normally. Reinforce good behavior, and when correcting the bad, be calm and loving. Try not to lose control yourself. Remember, your child's watching you closely for cues on how he should behave. You know, as your child moves into his second year, a whole new set of issues arise. Actually, you may think a whole new child has arrived, replacing that sweet, loving infant you've adored so much with a strong-willed bundle of negativity. Everybody calls it the terrible twos, and I think parents feel, my gosh, how can he have turned against me like this? Colin's right in the middle of the twos. And Colin's mother longs for the time when simple things like dressing and brushing teeth weren't such daily battles. From about the age of 1.5, it's normal for a child to begin asserting his independence.
This way, Colin.
Again, the child is learning, this time that he can control his world, and he wants to test that out.
Come on, Colin.
He's also having to learn to control himself. Colin's mom knows she can't just let him run around, so first she keeps him close by. Then she uses the opportunity to teach,
Colin, inside voices.
which is so much more valuable than just telling him no or not letting him come in the first place.
Stay by Mommy.
It's tough, but with Mom's help, Colin is learning to control himself,
You have to put those back, Colin James.
which he does so nicely in putting back the candy.
Mommy's gonna make some toast.
Sometimes picking your battles is half the battle won.
In your chair. Come on, sit down nicely, please.
Actually, battle shouldn't be the way to look at it.
Sit down nicely, please.
Colin won't sit safely while Mom makes lunch.
Here's your juice. You won't sit down for
In
Mommy?
a case like this, go to Plan B.
Okay. Well, we're gonna have to try and make the toast with you in my arms then. Okay, you wanna press the button?
It may be more difficult and time-consuming, but in the end, better for everyone. Another tip with toddlers, give them either-or choices. Kevin is tired and he doesn't know what he wants.
Juice?
No.
You want milk?
No.
Milk or juice?
Mom sets limits by narrowing his choices, while still letting him feel he's the one choosing.
Okay.
Thank you.
Kevin calms down and Mom avoids the tantrum. Tantrums are perfectly normal during the twos. A child gets overloaded and loses control.
How about we carry them?
Handle it by first remaining calm yourself. Yelling at your child will only make things worse. Restrain her if you have to, but do it gently.
You hold them?
A child at this age isn't really being bad. She's lost control and just can't help it. So understand and be loving once it's all over. As children progress from the second to the third year, their brains are developing in exciting new directions. There's an explosion in language, opening up whole new possibilities for communication. You with your child, and vice versa.
No.
A 3-year-old is discovering the power of words.
Okay, maybe guys
He can express how he feels,
don't let you.
for better or worse.
The minute is over. And
Because
now
they understand better, you can get across what you want better too.
we have to put lotion on you so you don't get sunburned.
Some tips.
Let's see what's in here, okay? We're each of you going
Be as clear and precise as possible.
You have to make your decision and stick with it. That was good.
Next, label the behavior, not the child.
I love you, Mary, but I don't like you knocking down Anna's book.
Your message should be, I love you. I just don't like what you're doing right now.
Don't play in the car.
This is also the age of growing reason.
Watch your fingers.
You'll be able to start explaining to your child why certain behavior isn't allowed and what the consequences will be.
You can get hurt. If mom's not in there, you can shut the door and it can hit your fingers.
We did it. We did it.
Thinking into the future about consequences is an important lesson for a 3-year-old.
And what is this?
Graham should be going to the bathroom.
Hey, Graham.
His mother is taking him out and knows that if he doesn't go now, he's likely to have an accident later.
You have to because you're going to have an accident. Remember we had the accident at the
She
YMCA?
explains it to him. He understands,
Okay, let's turn around and go potty.
but
Come on.
Graham resents being pushed and digs in.
Like Sean and Peter and Daddy?
What should Mom do?
No, that's not him.
She knows the consequences for Graham and her later on,
Go.
but the more she pushes, the more he resists.
You want privacy?
The stakes just keep getting higher and higher.
I know.
Finally, it explodes. After the blow-up, Mom wisely decides to back off. An accident later wouldn't be fun, but it's not worth an all-out battle. And guess what? With the pressure off, nature takes its course.
I did it.
You did it! Good boy!
Here's another situation that's often a struggle: meal times.
2 hands.
By the time a child is 2 or 3, most parents expect their kids to sit at the table and eat with the family.
Good job, Tom.
That's fine as long as you understand just how much your child can do at his age.
Helen, out from underneath the table.
I think that even at 3, it's too much to expect them to sit through a whole meal. They get bored and naturally want to start acting up.
Chew what's in your mouth first.
My advice: let them eat what they
Don't
want,
put your fingers in there.
then let them go. To force a child to sit there is
You know what,
just
I'm gonna take you
asking
away.
for trouble.
You're whole.
I'm full.
You're not full of
And to force a child to eat is even worse. As long as you offer nutritious foods, children usually get what they need.
Daddy, I want some of your ham.
You can have some of my ham.
Hey, Charlie, you need to pick a breakfast.
By offering them choices, but ones that you control, and making your expectations reasonable,
I want to take one bite.
1 bite? Okay.
you'll go a long way toward turning mealtime into quality time for the family.
You silly.
We're cleaning up.
Another classic: cleaning up. It's not something kids naturally want to do.
I win.
Having to stop play and turn to something else is very tough on children.
Get back here.
It helps to warn your child ahead of time when play will end. Like saying, we're going to have to stop in 5 minutes.
Clean up, everybody.
Then try to make a game of cleaning up.
Clean up, everybody.
Good job.
A little praise goes a long way.
Play-Doh with Mommy. Thank you, Jess.
In fact, use praise and encouragement whenever possible.
High five.
It shows your child you respect him.
Very nice picture.
As long as it's honest and matches the behavior being praised. Parents often worry about consistency. Certainly, forbidding something one day and allowing it the next creates confusion. And one parent saying yes while the other says no is just asking for manipulation.
Isabel, can we leave the A here?
But whether with your spouse, a caregiver, or your child's grandparents, there are going to be individual differences that kids quickly test. Don't worry about it too much. Just try to agree on overall rules beforehand and work out the details as they come up.
Okay, Rachel. Go eat. Oh, see, she didn't like
With
that.
more than one child, setting limits gets more complicated,
She knows how to feed herself.
especially if the older sib is only a toddler himself. The first issue is safety. You've just got to expect the toddler to be jealous, no matter how loving you've taught him to be.
You love brother, huh?
It's important never to leave the newborn alone with a toddler who just doesn't understand what can hurt or even damage.
That's mine.
As the sibs get older, they begin to fight.
No, hitting.
Don't worry, it's quite natural. I believe it's an important way they learn about each other, and they'll learn to work it out between themselves.
Then you're gonna have to go into timeout.
The real problem comes when the parent gets in the middle of it. So try to stay out of their minor squabbles. When you have to get involved, for safety's sake, try to show them how to work it out for themselves the next time around. For example, sharing a toy is one of the most common issues.
We're gonna do the minute sharing.
You can teach them how to take turns, but try to turn the lessons of limits back to them. That's a parent's ultimate goal. Teaching them that they can set limits for themselves and feel better and more competent when they do.
Justin, why are you kicking the toys?
But what about those times when your child just won't listen?
No.
So why are you doing it?
When despite all you've done to avoid it, the situation just keeps getting worse and worse.
I see a boy that looks like Justin.
First, try to redirect his attention like Justin's mom is doing. Often you'll find it will calm things down quickly.
Just like Justin.
If that doesn't work, try to remove your child so he can get himself under control. Timeouts work for many parents.
Didn't I tell you not to play with that motorcycle on the...
Let's watch Jalome's dad.
Sit right here.
He first removes Jalome from the situation to calm things down. After just a couple of minutes, he returns, making sure Jalome knows what he did wrong.
The motorcycle scratched the floor, and right, Daddy told you that you could play with the motorcycle in your room, but that I didn't want the motorcycle on the floor? Are you gonna do that again?
He labels the behavior, not the child.
It wasn't what you did. You're not a bad boy, but what you did was bad. I didn't like that, okay? You gonna promise Daddy we're gonna have a little deal there?
And ends with love and forgiveness.
So you gotta give me 5. If you could give me 5, I know that you got
It's a wonderful example of setting limits by teaching.
N-O spells no.
Setting limits is a long-term job and often a thankless task.
What?
One filled with stress and emotion. And it's no fun having to be the one who has to discipline. But it's a parent's opportunity and responsibility.
Will you come inside with Mommy?
Whatever you do, never turn to physical punishment. Shaking, hitting, spanking, they may stop the immediate behavior, but they're not really effective in the long run and can teach your children lessons no one wants them to learn.
I love you.
What happens when they drive you to the wall and you get so angry?
I think as parents, we all have to learn how to manage our anger. My first reaction is to yell. And I yell very hard. I do this. I say, you know, Justin, get away from me. Just get away from me. I don't want to speak to you right now. You know, and then I feel bad because I did this.
And you say it almost as if it were a learning process, as if you were the child having to learn how to manage your anger.
It scares me, because I'm very easygoing, but once I get to a point, I can really lose my temper, and sometimes I don't even know what I'm doing. So I know I have to take myself out of the situation. And I usually can tell right before I get to that point. And I'll put her in a room, and I'll put her gate up, and I'll just get out. And I'll go walk out in the yard, or you know, call somebody or take a few breaths. But it's scary to know that you can get to that point where you could hurt your own child.
Tamar, I think you put your finger on it. The first thing is to realize I'm out of control. Then get out of it and get yourself back in control so you can go back and pick her up and love her and say, you know, every time you do that, I have to stop you until you can stop yourself. And that's the goal. Now, another thing that I might suggest to you guys is that you might pull back and say, what is it that upsets me every time? What pushes my buttons? And it might help you the next time it happens. Yeah. How about spanking? How many people were spanked? I sure as heck was.
I was spanked. I remember being spanked as a child, and my brothers and I were all close in age, and we would go in the closet and sort of discuss what happened. And our general consensus was that our parents were mean and bad, and I can't really remember what we were spanked for, only feeling like it was unjust and we didn't deserve it. And I know now that the spanking is not what I want my children to do. I don't want them to hit others to solve a problem.
Can I say that I think that culture plays a big role in this? I think
Tell
the
me
culture.
about that.
Well, I think, well, I'm Dominican, and where I come from, there's nothing, well, I don't know, I don't want to stereotype anyone else, but there was nothing wrong with every now and then spanking your child. So it's something that I did carry with me.
When we were younger, there's 4 of us and I'm the youngest, we were always told, wait till your father gets home. My father had a leather belt, which was used strictly for spankings. But again, it's not something that, you know, felt good, and it's not something that you want to do to your own child.
Tell me about that, Sherry. It not only didn't feel good, but you don't want to perpetuate that kind of pattern?
Most of the time, I think you can prevent a situation from happening again by talking to the child, explaining why they shouldn't have done what they did, using timeouts, taking something away that means a lot to them. And so there are different ways to go around it than just spanking the child.
Well, my dad once, for talking back was a definitely no-no. Yeah. And he took his hands were really, really big, and he slapped me really, really hard. I remember going to school with that slap mark in my face, but I hated him. I didn't talk to him for like a week. I cried, and I remember going to my room and saying, I will never, ever do this to my child. That just wasn't.
You're really working to change the pattern, aren't you?
Definitely. It was, to me, it wasn't the right way.
I think everybody's trying hard to change that pattern from one that we really don't feel worked. I think we have to remember that discipline is teaching, not punishment. And what we're teaching our children when we hit them or spank them is that violence is the way to settle things. I think we're all looking for discipline that works, and it has to be gentle and respectful. It has to be firm and consistent. All of these are very hard to pull off, but at the same time, when you pick the child up and love them and say, every time you do this, I have to stop you until you can stop yourself. That's the ultimate goal for discipline. Remember, next to love, discipline is the most important thing you can give a child, because in the end, setting limits means love.
Dandelions? Oh, they're beautiful. Thank you. I get a hug? Oh.